Cool. So I don't see, if we were to hide our wing, I don't really see too much taper. I mean, I see some taper in here, and I see maybe a little bit of taper here, but we'll address that here in a second. So what's going on? There we go. All right, so let's get back into this. So one thing off the bat I'm noticing is we're going to have to section off this wing into a couple of different sections because we can't have one continuous section describing this whole wing because the sweep angle changes and also the chord. So looks like we might have to have one section here, we'll have one section here, and we'll also have one section here for the winglet. Cool, so let's go ahead and do that. So I see we only have one section. Let's get our wing back. Show. There we go. Now we have our wing back. And now let's create a couple more sections. So let's go ahead and split it a couple times. Nice, so now we have one section here, we'll have one section here, so we have three sections. 2, 3. Good. So now let's go ahead and honestly, let's just reduce the chord a little bit. We know we're going to have to modify it already. And just for the purposes of seeing behind the wing, let's reduce this down to maybe like 30, just so we can see better behind there. Cool, now let's go to that first section there, and let's make this thing tapered. Looks like we'll have some leading edge sweep as well, just in this area. So let's add some sweep here. It might be 5 degrees. Nope. Looks like it's going to be more like 10 degrees. Oh, that's a lot better. See how we're kind of following that contour there. Nice. Oh yeah, let me just explain what all these are in here. So the aspect ratio is just the ratio of the span over the chord for a rectangular shaped wing, but for a non-rectangular wing, it's the span squared divided by the wing's area. So that's just a non-dimensional value we use to describe the aspect ratio. The aspect ratio. Cool, and the span is just the span along the ZY plane, so the length along the ZY plane rather. And so we can adjust this value to try to get it within our bounds. Okay, cool. That's looking good right about at our section there. And actually, why don't we continue that span all the way until we reach the leading edge of our next section. So probably around, yeah, that's pretty good, I'd say. See how the leading edge of the section is right here, and we're pretty close. You can call it good. And at this aft section here, I notice how we're going to have to match this line to meet up with our root chord. So let's adjust our root chord here a little bit to get this point parallel with this point. And so, so aspect ratio, let me just continue here. Kind of got sidetracked. Aspect ratio, span, area. So that's just the top-down area of your wing. Taper ratio, I've already explained that. The average chord is the average chord. I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory. You got your root chord. So root versus the tip. You can change those. Section sweep is how I refer to it, is the aft sweep. So we'll see here, we actually need to adjust this value here. So we'll go ahead and we'll reduce this down until we meet that contour. A little too much there. And we'll reduce our root chord a little bit to meet up with that value. Cool, looks good to me. So this section is complete. Let's go to the next section. In this section, we said we're just going to go from here to here. So let's go ahead and increase the section length to about right there. We need a little bit of sweep, just a slight amount, maybe even less than that. Nice. And now let's get some sweep here to line up with that edge. And our root chord, we can even reduce this a little bit, looks like. And sometimes I just use the arrow keys to move that, by the way. Sometimes it's easier just to come in here and just adjust the params this way. Um, so anyways, that's what I usually do to do that. And the last section here, it has a little much smaller span. It has a little bit more leading edge sweep. Probably more like 30 degrees, maybe 60. It looks better. Now for the aft section. Nice. Cool. This looks pretty good for a first start. Yeah, so that's the wing. And let's see if we can do the horizontal tail real quick. X form, move it back. Nice. Looks pretty good. Section, let's make our sweep less severe. Pretty good. We know the span isn't going to be near that big. So we can bring it down to about right there. The chord, obviously we won't have that much chord. That looks good. We know that we'll probably need two sections. So we can split this into two. And we'll make this section sweep about like that. This next one will need a little bit more. I believe it had a little bit more leading edge sweep. Actually, this is the one that this the two different sections are way up there. There we go. Now we can increase the sweep. Looks good. Oh snap. Did not mean to do that. Cool, and you can click escape just to get a better view of it. So we can also call this the horizontal tail. There we go. So this is looking good, looking good. So yeah, I'd say this is a good start. As if you wanted to do the nacelles, that honestly wouldn't take too long. These are called nacelles. And this one, we have two of them, so let's go ahead and activate XZ symmetry and move it off the XZ plane and also move them back. Good. And let's change the section length now, because obviously they're not that big. Do about like that. Nice. And let's move this forward section kind of back, maybe to 10%. Maybe a little bit more. That looks good. And it looked like a circle from the top. So let's just make that like that. This next one, we'll make it a circle. And we'll also move it back to about right there. Nice. This back section now, we'll also make it a circle. And we'll move it forward. We'll add another section in here.